Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Giuseppe Grammatico on the line. He's founder of GG The Franchise Guide, and he's an author. He's a podcast host. We got a lot to talk about today. Giuseppe, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Adam. I'm looking forward to it. Really excited.
All right, so the brand and the ecosystem, I'm using that word. If you describe it differently, please use the word that you would use, of course. But how'd you get into this to where you want to do books, podcasts, help other people with their financial freedom? Where'd all this come from?
Yeah, so I was an unhappy corporate executive. I worked on Wall Street, and I knew there was something else out there for me. I knew that I couldn't do the commute, couldn't do the hours, and just was unhappy. So started looking at different jobs, eventually found the franchising was the right fit. I was an entrepreneur at heart. We owned a restaurant in the past, and that was a route. And because of that route, that research, and the coach that helped me, I'm like, you know what? There are a lot of people out there, same shoes as me, that are looking for the same transition, confused, don't know where to start. And that's how I got it. I basically created a platform, an educational platform. Some people like to read. We wrote a book. Some people like the podcast. We covered different topics, but it's an education platform and showing you what it takes to own a franchise business.
And so how long have you been in this? How long have you been working in this niche?
20 years. 20-year anniversary
20
this year.
20 years in.
Yeah.
Congratulations, first off. Wow.
Thank you.
And approximately, how many people do you think you work with in your career? I know that's a hard question, but just approximately in the franchise side of things.
Yeah, it's several thousand that we've helped throughout the years. We had several hundred or so move forward with the franchise. But we have a lot of people that are really early on and they just want some information gathering. But we help people. Our goal is not to have someone buy a franchise. It's really to educate them in making the most educated decision.
What's your favorite part about taking people through this process? Because obviously it's a process, and it's like you're birthing a business, a new franchisee.
Right.
Not easy. What do you like about doing that? Because you must you did it in 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's really helping people avoid the costly mistakes I see people make on a day-to-day basis. Buying a business or getting into business ownership for the wrong reason. They hate their boss. They hate their job. Well, maybe it's another job. It doesn't necessarily have to be a business. So it's really educating and helping people figure out one of the largest investments that they could make, aside from buying a home, is am I a good fit for franchising, and what ideally does that brand look like? So I help them eliminate those costly mistakes, help them figure out if the fit's there even before looking at specific brands. So I hate to see people suffer and get into business or into the wrong business. So that's what we try to do, is we try to help eliminate the confusion and those mistakes.
So my past career, just briefly, is I was a financial advisor. And when I did that, I was helping people with their financial investments, things like that. And there were different types of financial advisors. So there was some financial advisors that had a couple of products that they had to use, so to speak. And not saying they're bad products, but that's all they had. And then there were others that were able to shop around, find other things, you know what I mean, like that. How does that part of the franchise business just work in general?
Yeah, so I also was a financial advisor. I worked for Payne Weber and later on UBS at the age of 19 while still in college. So we were definitely in the same space. And the approach was you have to learn about the person. I would sit next to other people in the space, and they would start recommending brands, or in that space it would be financial vehicles, mutual funds, and things like that, but not knowing enough about the family, what they were looking to do, their goals, because that all affects obviously the investment. And the same goes for being a franchise coach and consultant, which is what I do today. First call has nothing to do with franchising. We're just, hey, tell me about yourself. Are you married, working, kids? Are you looking to create a legacy here? What are your goals? What's the reason behind all of this? And I think spending a lot of time up front getting to know the person, because they don't know us, we don't know them. So we're looking for the right fit, even when it comes to personality. But overall, we want to make sure that they're fully educated, that they understand what a franchise is. Just like in the financial services, you invest in individual securities versus mutual funds. There's going to be different ranges of risk and volatility. We talk about the same thing in franchising. Believe it or not, I had a young gentleman call me up and say, I want a franchise. When I asked why, he told me, I heard that you can't lose money with a franchise. And I said, not to be negative, but this is a business. Therefore, there's going to be upside and potential downside. So yes, we want to eliminate the downside, but there's always risk. So it's really just getting on the same page and learning about them so that I can offer the best advice for each and every one of our candidates.
Mm. How do you decide who you're going to allow on your platform? So like what types of businesses you're going, speaking of, like what type of businesses you're going to allow to even be able to present in front of clients? Like how does that piece of it work?
So on the back end, we're partnered with a company by the name of FranChoice, and FranChoice has full-time staff that pre-screens companies. So without getting into all the details, they're contacting the brands. They're making sure, number one, that they're national and can expand across the country. They're speaking with franchise owners. They're speaking with the back office, reviewing their franchise agreement, making sure they have everything in place when it comes to growth. What is their angle? How do they go over and beyond to help their franchisees become successful? So it's an initial pre-screen that really narrows down this universe of 4,000 franchise companies to the top 5-10% of brands out there. So that eliminates a lot of the brands that maybe just popped up. Maybe they're just expanding in one state. We're looking for those national. And then when we work with our candidates, people that said, okay, rose my hand, I'm ready to own a business, we get to know a lot about them. So we want to know, hey, are you going to keep your job and run this semi-active, or are you running this full-time? What do your financials look like? Where are you located? All those different criteria, what we call characteristics, help us narrow down which brand to recommend that they continue the research process with. So we usually like to narrow it down to about 3 companies that check off all the boxes, and then we help guide and coach them on those due diligence calls.
That's so interesting to me. And what I like about this, by the way, is the processes, and that even in the back end that there's processes. And then also 4,000 is a big universe. Like that's a healthy choice. Like you're not forced to recommend only a couple companies. Like you can really get to know the person that's coming to you, number one, but then also make a really educated decision on like what companies you're going to put in front of them.
Absolutely. We spent a lot of time there. Just because you like a sandwich at a certain franchise doesn't mean you should own that business. We want to make sure for example, allows you to keep your job and run it semi-active. That's going to rule out a nice chunk of brands, because some brands require the franchise owner to be full-time. So we get to really learn about, hey, I like soccer, but do I have to own a soccer franchise, or do I buy a franchise that gives me a lot of time freedom in order to go to the World Cup and the soccer games? Those are 2 different characteristics, 2 different franchise models. So we like to challenge and show people there are different ways of structuring a business. The passion doesn't have to be necessarily in the business. It can create the freedom for you to allow yourself to travel and go to the games and things like that. So it's kind of we call a mindset shift.
I love it. Let's switch it up a bit here. You mentioned a podcast. I know the book too. Let's talk about some content here. Like I want my listeners to go and to listen, of course. What kind of content can they expect?
So Franchise Freedom is the podcast, anything business related. So from exit strategy planning to how to find your first franchise, to attorneys, how do attorneys help in the process, CPAs, financial advisors. We cover just about any topic. So when you go right to the website, you could type a search in, and it'll pull up every show that's relevant for those keywords. We kept it simple, and because of the podcast, we rolled out a book also called Franchise Freedom. We kept it original, and that is a 30-minute read, and it's our exact blueprint, my exact blueprint of helping you find a franchise. It's not 500 pages. We wanted to keep it straight and to the point, and it also talks about the stuff that most people are uncomfortable talking about, such as letting your family, your spouse, whoever's involved in the process know what's going on. We see a lot of people dive into this process and not notify the family, and that causes a rift, right? That causes issues down the road. So letting the family know, creating a team of a financial advisor, your CPA, your attorney, making sure you have that team in your back pocket should the need arise, and just so that every decision is looking at all angles. We talk about all the really important stuff that I think a lot of people shy away from because they're uncomfortable. But the reality is you don't want to start a business and then all of a sudden you're in the middle of a divorce because you didn't let the spouse know what was going on. So it talks a lot about that, but it's simple. It's straight to the point. It doesn't talk about brands. It talks about why you're doing this and how to figure out what this ideal business looks like.
I like to let's go a little bit further on the podcast and just a memorable episode. Like, give us a little bit of a flavor. I know you gave us a high level, but I want to go just a little bit more granular. Any episode, maybe one you recorded yesterday, I don't know. But just to give the audience a little bit of like a takeaway or something that you got from it, because I really want them to go check it out.
Yeah, so we had a great episode with Brandon Johnson a couple weeks ago. He's with a company by the name of Floor Coverings International, a franchise. And we talked about the purpose of having him on was not just to talk about the brand, but just business ownership in general. He's worked for Chick-fil-A. Subway, and a few other companies. And major takeaways are that there are different vehicles, right? The franchise model is the vehicle, and ultimately, it's the owner still has to really follow through with the process, with the system. This isn't a passive like stock market investing where you just buy the franchise and it runs on its own. So he talks about the different vehicles, and certain vehicles have a brick and mortar structure where you have a storefront, and others are service related where you're offering a flooring service or a painting. But there's no one size fits all. There's no right or wrong answers. And we spent a lot of time figuring out what this ideal business looks like without the misconception, without these preconceived notions that you need to spend millions of dollars and you need a ton of staff to make money. So we talked about simple models where you're in the flooring business, but you're not necessarily laying down flooring or carpeting or anything like that. You're managing essentially a team of salespeople and 1099 contractors and keeping that number to a relatively low number. So the purpose of that, and it's one of our more recent episodes, was that you have options. Don't kind of say you have this preconceived notion that you need to invest in this $1 million franchise. There are plenty of options out there. When you reverse engineer it, which is another part of the show, and figure out what life looks like and what this business looks like, and then we can figure out together kind of what's out there. So you don't need experience in the franchise itself. Each franchise is looking for a transferable skill set. So you may not have flooring experience, but if you're good at sales, great. There are plenty of franchises that are just looking for sales. They'll teach you the rest. And just like myself, I worked on Wall Street, had sales experience. I got into building services, had no experience there, but I was great at networking. So that was the transferable skill set that helped us become successful. So I talked just a lot about you got options. Just because your neighbor did well with one franchise doesn't mean you'll do well. So to really get granular and figure out, simplifying it, what does life look like and what does your business look like, and then seeing if there's a model out there that fits it.
Wow. Let's talk a little bit about the types of individuals that you found in your career are right for franchising, and kind of like those moments when they go for it. So one you mentioned was basically yourself. If we're saying avatars, it's somebody that was in corporate and wanted something else. So that was one avatar, let's say. What else other than a corporate transition?
Yeah, so we work with people, corporate transition, corporate refugees, a lot of people from the military. I would say 20% of the families we've helped are coming out of the military. It's a natural fit.
Oh,
they're able to follow a process.
Yeah, that does sound like you follow a process. It's in front of you. Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Continue. That never dawned on me. I'm like, duh. That makes a lot of sense. Go ahead, please.
It lines up, right? Because it's kind of like, this is the structure. You follow through, and that way there's
follow
less
manuals. They can follow orders.
Yes.
Well, in this case, it's not an order. They own the business, so I don't have to be clear. But I just mean like they can follow guidelines, brand guidelines, all those things. And they can execute. Like they're paid to execute in the military. Go ahead, please. It's so smart.
That's exactly it. People that can follow a process. If you're going to buy a burger franchise and have all ideas to change the menu, a franchise probably isn't the right fit. And so you need to be able to follow a process.
In The Founder, that movie, when they start selling other stuff, I love that. Go ahead.
How they changed the avatar, right? They went from the rich investors to more of the middle class families, more blue collar, and it made such a difference in that avatar. But yeah, number one, you need to be able to follow a process and be open to it, understanding that they've figured it out and you're just going to execute with less distraction because in many cases they're doing the marketing for you. In some cases, the call center, even bookkeeping. You need to have capital. This isn't a midnight, no money down type of business. This is, and we tell people you should have at least about 50,000 liquid, 150 net worth. Liquidity can come from savings, investments. It can even come from retirement. And so we talk a lot about making sure there's enough capital, not only to fund the franchise, you need to financially qualify. Each brand has different qualifications. So we talk quite a bit about that. And you have to have a realistic time frame. There's no set time frame to purchase a franchise, but if you're going to look at specific brands, have a time frame of 6 months or less. And people question all the time, well, why 6 months? I go, 6 months is just a general timeline. I compare it to, you find a home you like, you don't tell the seller that I'll come back in a year and potentially buy it. Same thing with franchising. We don't know what's going to be available 6 months out. So if you have a timeline of 6 months or less, look at brands. If your timeline is a few years out, just look at the industry in general. But you have to have the money to invest, follow the systems, have that time frame, and just be okay and be open to coaching, because what you're getting with the franchise, and you're paying a franchise fee and royalty, is ongoing coaching, ongoing support. And if you're okay with that and you will take advantage of that, absolutely move forward with the franchise. If some of those don't work for you, franchise may not be the right fit for you.
Amazing. Giuseppe, this has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today, learning more about what you're up to and also the work that you're doing and creating content. I love it. I tell everybody should have a book, should have a podcast. I don't care what the industry is. Like, it's a way to connect and all the things that you mentioned. I just love it. That being said, how do people follow up? How do they connect? How do they get the book, listen to the show? And if they're interested in learning about franchising, connect with you.
Awesome. Well, again, I appreciate you having me on the show. This has been a lot of fun. Our service is 100% free for anyone that contacts us. It's a education platform. We are compensated like a real estate agent. We're paid a referral fee from the brands, but there's no cost. Even if it's a quick call, not sure where you stand, I would be more than glad to help. So easiest way is going right to the website, GG, my initials, thefranchiseguide.com. Go to the website. You can download our book that we talked about. You can check out the podcast. We even have a webinar, so everyone likes to digest information differently. So take a look, and you can book a call directly on the website. It's going to ask you a few questions, and be more than glad. Even if you're just still not certain, you got a lot of stuff going on, just want to figure out franchising may be the right fit for you, we could definitely set something up. I'm more than glad to help anyone. We have other resources, blogs. We have 25 FAQs. What does it take to own a franchise, financial requirements, that kind of thing. So we include all that. And again, it's all free. The book is free unless you want a hard copy. It's a couple bucks on Amazon, and more than glad to schedule a 20-minute right fit call. And just if the timing isn't right, we could put together a plan going forward and maybe touching base in the future. So take me up on the offer while everything is still at no cost, and we'd love to help anyone in that corporate transition.
Wonderful. And for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so that you can connect with Giuseppe and his team. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. You heard me correct. Each and every day, bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way in your journey as well. So hit that subscribe or follow button. And Giuseppe, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks again. I appreciate it. It was fun.